Well, in 2007, I joined a startup here in town as the lead tech guy. And in the interview process, I had asked them what kind of hardware resources they had available. And they took me upstairs to a closet, and they showed me a machine that looked a lot like this. It was actually a little worse because it wasn't a Dell. I think it might have been an E-machine, and it had more duct tape all over it that was more necessary to keep it together. And so I was concerned that the source code of the company was stored there. So the first thing I did was buy a bunch of servers. I also replaced the phone system, which I think they bought out of the back of a van, and you know, with a nice Nortel system that did voice over IP and all that cool stuff. The next thing I did was move the production servers to a national managed hosting company. And all of these things I did for a reason. I think they were necessary at the time in order to get the company, to protect the customer's data, to get the company to the next level from an IT perspective. Now, a year and a half later, I'm with another startup, and my goal was just the opposite. No servers, no on-site PBX, no hosting contracts, and minimal licensed, traditionally licensed software. So you may be wondering, what's the change? Well, the company I was with in 2007 was pretty well funded for a company here in Oklahoma. And the company I'm with now is self-funded. The other thing is a lot's changed since then. I mean, the iPhone wasn't out at that point. And certainly, computing has changed a lot, particularly cloud computing. Now, if you haven't heard of cloud computing, essentially the idea is that your software is in the cloud. Your servers are virtualized in the cloud. And this can apply to a variety of resources, whether it be servers or whatever. But what we're going to talk about here is how to get your head in the cloud and use cloud computing for you to help address your technology needs. Now, if you're not using Google Apps and you have a small business, you should. It's free. If you are a nonprofit and you're not using Google Apps, you should. It's free. If you're a large enterprise and you need large enterprise stuff like Exchange or Lotus Notes, you can still use it, $50 per person per year. And you can get things like postini and spam protection and things of that nature. So I highly recommend Google Apps. The second thing, as a small business, is you need a file server. If you haven't looked at Dropbox or SugarSync, you should, because it's your file server in the cloud, but it's even better because it's also on your laptop or your desktop, and it's distributed to all your machines and can be shared with your other employees, etc. So there's all kinds of services like this, whether it be Salesforce or 37 Signals. I know we've got a lot of those fans here. You even have these kind of solutions for your church. And if you need a help desk, this is one of my favorites right now. We run our help desk using Zendesk. So I'm a big fan of this. Now, I also mentioned the PBX. You know, I don't think you need a PBX in your closet much anymore if you're a small business, because all these companies make it very easy to host your PBX in the cloud, and it just sounds like a nice big professional company. So now I want to talk about hosting your software in the cloud in terms of managed hosting and co-location. That's what you used to do. You used to buy a server and put it in a colo facility, or you used to sign a big managed hosting contract. The negative thing about that is simply the fact that you have to decide up front how much hardware you need. You don't have to worry about that if you're using cloud-based hosting. And the reason for that is the fact that cloud-based hosting is based around the idea of hardware virtualization. So that removes the one-to-one mapping between hardware and the actual server operating system. So you can run multiple server operating systems on a single machine. But I don't recommend you do that yourself because there's many cloud computing opportunities out there. One, the big one, is Amazon. We think of them as a book company, but they really are an infrastructure company. So here you see me walking through actually booting up an instance of a Fedora Linux machine here in the cloud. I'm doing this from my browser in my house, and I've just launched that instance. Now, once I do that, I have a dedicated virtual instance. And when I say virtual, it's a real machine. We can log into it via SSH. If we have a web app running on it, we can access that web app. We can even map our own domain name to it if we'd like. But the fact of the matter is this is a real application running on a real machine, and it scales on demand. So if we get on dig one day, you know, we can handle the resources. What does it cost? Well, here I booted up an instance for an hour. It costs 15 cents, right? Think about having to buy hardware. You can never get it for 15 cents. Here's a real-world example. $154.14. So the fact of the matter is it allows you to scale on demand as the resources are needed. And there's all kind of players in the market now, whether they be Microsoft or Google, or many of the solutions that are built on top of Amazon's existing grid. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to buy a server anymore. You can host your server in the cloud, and it's a really great way to do business. Thank you.